Hello, hi everyone. So excited to be here. These are like my favorite things that we do all week. They are our fireside chats. And today is a really special fireside chat because I have one of my favorite human beings, Khadija Yansani, excuse me, who is one of our incredible coaches and mentors, our lead coach and mentor at the Hivery. She is like my right hand person with the Hivery Incubator. She's a friend. She's one of my sheroes. She's so talented. So I would love to welcome Khadija. Khadija, come on in. Why don't you join here? Let's see. Let's get you. Let's get you with us. So all you have, there we go. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about Khadija. She is to you, and she's the creator of a program called the Client Creation Queen. 8 weeks to get clients, get paid, and live your sacred calling. And here she is.
Hi.
Yay! I love doing this, and I love doing this with you, Khadija. This is such a special one. I'm
Hmm.
gonna. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome.
Having me. Me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I love it. I want to tell. So, Khadija has done a number of incredible things for the Hivery. She coaches, she mentors, she helps. We've co-created some of the programming and planning around the coaching and mentorship, and our incubator program, as I mentioned. So, I get to work really closely with Khadija every week, and it's my total honor. I want to tell you just one more thing about her. She focuses on, and what I really admire, she focuses a lot on women owning their value and coaching and training towards getting paid, which we love that. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. But Khadija, you were a women's studies major at UC Berkeley,
I
um, which I love. I love that. And then I also just want to chime in that Khadija is also an incredible mom to Naima and Khalil, who are six years old and 4 years old, right,
Yes.
Khadijah?
Oh my.
Yes. You do amazing stuff. An amazing mom, an amazing part of the Hivery, and then an amazing business owner and business coach. So let's get started. I wanna hear from you.
Grace. It's an honor to do this fireside chat with you. You guys might not know, but Grace was on my vision board.
Oh.
And I found out about the Hivery from a member, and I was in her mastermind. And then another time I heard about the Hivery just because I was looking for spaces, and I just parked it in my brain. And so I'm just grateful that you've created this space for women to come and connect.
Mm.
And I know that you mean it because I know you. When it says a place to belong, it's true. And so I'm
Mm.
thrilled to be connecting with you today.
Well, thank you, Khadija. And you have just been such a special part of continuing to build that network of belonging and to make people feel so not just included, but like the best version of themselves. And I witnessed that in you. Khadija leads our virtual co-working, and so she is constantly showing up for our members and really helping them to stay committed to themselves. And so I just am honored to watch you work because I know what a true place it comes from in your heart as well.
I appreciate
So,
that.
well, thank you, Khadija. So let's dig in. We've got some fun stuff to talk about today.
Yes.
Um, One of the things that Khadija so artfully and gracefully talks about is client creation and bringing clients toward you that are aligned with your values and also help you to have a really profitable business. So let's talk about what got you here and what what's the impetus for this journey for you of helping women create these successful service-based businesses that are from the heart. Tell us a little bit about that.
I love that you're asking me this because I would have never expected myself a business coach. My dad is an economics professor, and when I was at college at UC Berkeley, he was like, "Darling, a girl like you should major in business." And I really thought, Grace, that he did not understand me, that he didn't get me. Like I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was stuffy, and that I felt more creative, I felt more sensitive, and I just did not think that he knew what he was talking about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, I thought I wanted to be a therapist, and then I discovered coaching. And ironically, one of our Hivery members, Janet Crawford, was one of my coaching instructors at JFK about 10
Mm,
years ago.
I
And
remember you telling me that. Yes.
I actually reconnected with her in the Hivery incubator. And so I was just a general life coach for a while, which I loved. And we were taught that you could just, if anyone had a life and they had an issue, that you could help them with coaching. And so it was really hard. I was one of those people that it was really hard for me to niche down. And I was leading
Hmm.
women's circles. And over again, people would start asking me if I could help them get clients. And I was like, well, I'm a coach. I don't see why not. And my niche kind of found me. So on my own, I don't think that I would have been a business coach. But now, Grace, looking in hindsight, it makes
Hmm.
sense. And I think that my version, how I view business now, is completely different than what I thought it was when my dad said that to me years ago. But it's funny, like in the last few years, he's like, I was right, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
I had to do it in my own way.
Well, there's so much in there. I have teenagers, so I can imagine that they're constantly thinking that what I'm telling them is not a match. So it's good to know that it can come out the other side. And but I also it's interesting because the other thing that came to mind is that, and I had this too, like a preconceived notion that what you said, like you have you're such a heartfelt person, and I had a preconceived notion that I wouldn't be able to bring that into business.
Yeah.
I had a false notion that I wouldn't be able to bring that into business. And I watch you and the way that you bring that front and center to your business. So I feel like you've really integrated all the powerful parts of you, the soft side, the soft and the compassion, and then the smart and the wise, to redefine what business could look like for yourself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because now that looking in hindsight, that my dad thought that I was a people person. And so that's one of the reasons that he thought that
Hmm.
I should be in business. And I didn't know that or think that about business. And I mean, even just with the Hivery, how you're so connected to your core values and how that informs everything
Right.
that happens at the Hivery, I now see that business can be an expression, a deeper expression of
Yeah.
art.
Yeah. And it can be done with kindness and heart and compassion and love, and still be successful. I would use that word very carefully, but still be profitable. And that's part of the work that you do is like you said, and helping people find not just clients, not probably just any old clients, but clients that really light them up and put them in the best flow of their work.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you do that? And those that are watching, how can they do that?
Yes. Well, I want to rewind a little bit because in our coaching program, so part of the way that you graduate is that you have to get clients. And I remember our instructor saying, well, you can charge whatever you want, but you have to charge something. And I wouldn't recommend charging less than $25. And Grace, it was hard for me then to charge
Wow.
to coach, and I was just like, is anyone going to pay for this? So I definitely feel like I've gone through my own journey of receiving money, and I think especially if you identify as being a heart-centered person, as being a spiritual person, as being a good person, you want to help others. And sometimes we're taught that it should just be free, and that you
Mhm.
just want to help people rather than it be a reciprocal um, relationship. And then I also think sometimes, coaching can be considered a soft skill, and
Mhm.
maybe more philosophical and less tangible than saying, I'm going to give you a massage and you're going to give me, $100 for this massage, or
Right.
buy
Right.
products in a bag. And so sometimes it can feel that coaching, you're selling an intangible product or service. And just being able to name the benefits that people are going to get. And so I've just, my evolution with charging continues to grow. And I remember charging $25 and that was hard. And then I think my first package was $9.97 and that was hard. And then I was like, I
Mhm.
think I'm ready to charge 2,500 and that was hard. And so I feel like you just keep expanding, like you experience a price point and you feel comfortable and then you're ready to grow and expand. And so I love um, helping people realize the value of what they have to give, because a lot of times if it comes naturally to you, you take it for granted, and maybe it's hard to put a monetary value on it.
That's so true. And there's a couple of things that come to mind that you and I were just talking about this morning, actually, when we were planning for the incubator tomorrow. And one of the things that I know you're going to touch on tomorrow is practice. And when
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about you practice charging, and then you practice charging more, and then you practice charging more. And sometimes I think we think that we have to either be born with it, like we have to, like some people say, like I'm afraid to sell, or
Mm.
I'm not good at sales. And so I think people think that if you don't have it right out of the gate, that you can't practice and get it. And you have proven otherwise, and I think you teach otherwise, right? Is that true?
Absolutely. Like, this is my first time doing an Instagram live, right? And so,
Which
like,
I love.
you can just use this as an example. Like, you might be a person that's like, I really should be doing videos, or I'd really like to do a blog, but you only want to do it if it looks your perfect, polished best, versus
Mhm.
being willing to, like, okay, I wasn't as, I didn't meet my standard the first time, but it wasn't so bad, and I'm willing to do it again. And so I think that goes for the various areas of your business. So whether that's being more visible on social media, if you feel really timid or shy about that, that you get to start in a safe space to do it. So it could be
Yeah.
a Hivery community Facebook group, or in the incubator program, or places where you feel more comfortable, and then expand from there. And I think it's the same thing with saying our rates, increasing
Mhm.
prices, speaking, whatever it is. Like, I think it gets better over time for sure.
And do you, I'm asking like a question that I think I know the answer to, because you and I have had conversations about this, but and so in fact I won't even ask it as a question, because that we've had conversations about just the many people that we've witnessed and worked with, and I'm sure including ourselves, that have undercharged for
Mm-hmm.
our services. And I love nothing more than when I suggest is that someone raise their prices by 30% or double their prices. I love it. They kind of squirm a little bit. They're like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And then if they call me and say, I did it. I did it. So what do you, because that's exactly what you work on, right? Is helping people get to that, get past the discomfort. Let's talk about that too. Like, how do we do that? How do we get past the discomfort and charge what we're worth?
Yeah, so I think that sometimes you make the discomfort or the fear something wrong. And so, like, if you're feeling that discomfort, you could potentially tell yourself that, oh, see, that's a sign that I'm not ready to take that
Mhm.
step, versus I'm uncomfortable and I'm stretching myself. And so, and also sometimes I think people are attached to the outcome. So, in the case of prices, if you are thinking, well, what if the person says no? I think the practice isn't that they say yes, but just getting those words outside of your mouth. And so you're making me think of a client that I worked with, where I just said, like, just say your higher price the next session. It really doesn't matter. Like, actually, let them say no. I just want you to hear the words come out of your mouth. And
Yes.
that person did say yes, but I think the breakthrough happens just with that. Like, okay, I'm putting myself out there. And I want to say too is that it is vulnerable to make offers, because I think most heart-centered entrepreneurs, they're really good at their craft. So they're great at yoga, they're great at herbal
Mhm.
concoctions, they're great at writing or art or whatever their passion is. And I find that the place where people are the most uncomfortable is when they're making their offer and the conversation around money comes up. Hi, Am.
Yes. Amber just said, just get those words out of your mouth. She quoted, and it's so true. It's so true.
You know,
Uh, but isn't it? And then the other thing you touched on that I think is also really profound is that sometimes when things are easy for us, we think that they're not valuable.
mm,
So, and we've seen that time and again, right? Is that when someone says like, "Oh, that's nothing. I could do that in my sleep. I'll just do that for free. I'll just do you a
yeah.
favor." I like it's easy for. Well, we're like, "Oh my God, it's not easy for me. It's
Mm.
easy for you." You know?
And
So sometimes we get that mixed up, right?
for sure. I've also seen that with service providers. And I think it's because I'm a coach too. Like, I can see it where I've asked people, like, how much would it charge? How much would they charge for me to work with them? And they don't give me a response right away. Like, I kind of have to chase them around. And part of it I think it's because of fear that they're charging, hi Amber, or that they shouldn't charge.
Right.
Um, because it's easier, like it only took them 5 minutes to do. And so I'm thinking about this person. She was a service provider, and I'm like, well, if I were to do it, I would probably have to research. I would probably get a headache. I would be really frustrated. It would take me a really long time, but it's easy for you because it's your passion. So you're actually helping me by taking this off of my plate. And I think when you're having that inner experience, it can be completely easy to forget that your gift that is so natural and easy for you might be difficult and hard for someone else.
I think of it there. I had a good friend, um, and she since moved in, but she used to come over and help me clean out my closet,
Mm.
just as my friend. And she would help me like put together like outfits and get me to wear things that I hadn't worn in a long time. And she would always be like, I would be like, you should really do this. You should charge for this. You should, because she was so good at it. It was so easy for her. She's like, oh, it's nothing. It's everybody can do this. But I would think to myself, like, if I could do it by myself, I would. But
I'm
I need her.
Yeah,
So yeah. Oh, it is funny though how we can get ease mixed up with like ease is often an indicator of like our truest internal gifts.
absolutely. And it's interesting because you're making me think about um, if something comes really natural and easy for you, it might be a skill granted, and it
Right.
might be difficult for you to see yourself as an expert. So like even the example that you
My dog is like growling. Sorry. Sorry. She wants to be on my lap. Okay.
he's saying, charge more.
She's like, she's like, put me on Instagram Live. I want to be here too.
Well, I was just saying that sometimes when things come really easy to you, you might not see yourself as an expert. And I've had a lot of calls with women in our community and just women in my community. And I have found not everyone, but some people have a difficult time calling themselves an expert. And I know I did for a very, very long time. And I think it can bring up feelings of like, oh, if I call myself an expert, that means I'm better than someone else or I'm above. And it does not mean that at all. So I'm thinking about my mom, who's an amazing gardener. It's not like she went to school for gardening or anything like that. But when I think about it, I'm like, well, what do I do with this plant? Is it supposed to be in the sun? Is it supposed to be in the shade?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know which plants to give less water, which ones to give more water? But she knows that she knows that, and it's easy for her. And so literally, Grace, she was helping me with some succulents last weekend. And it's kind of embarrassing, but I was like, she's like, no, you have to put the plant at the top, not at the bottom, because it needs room to grow, right? And so she's saying this to me like, that's just so obvious. And I'm like, Mom, it's not obvious. Can you just
Right.
give me the 101? And so for those of you out there that feel like you're really good at something or it really natural to you, consider that it's not easy and it doesn't come, naturally to someone else. And so it's actually a gift for you to be able to do things. Like, for example, I used to try to do graphics, and although I think I like how things look, it's not my strength. It's not my strength. And like someone else whose strength it is, they could just like put it together really quick and I can tell them what I want. So consider that your expertise is saving someone time, it's saving someone money, and it's saving
Mm-hmm.
someone energy. So let them pay you.
Right.
So you can,
Right. And it's opening up the door for their gifts,
yeah,
right? So when you charge for your expertise and you give your gift, it opens the door of time and energy and opportunity for them to give their gifts. It's yeah.
it's
Oh, I love that.
it's reciprocal. It's receiving and giving. And I think for a lot of us, it's easier to give, and maybe we're taught as women to give. But I also think there's something about the vulnerability of receiving, of someone giving you money, of someone,
Mm-hmm.
serving you. And I think being able to expand our
Yeah.
capacity for help and for asking for what we want and for money, for the gifts that we give is a beautiful thing to continue to cultivate.
Yeah. You're making me think too of, one of the things that comes up recently because of these challenging times that we're living in right now, is just I've heard this a lot, and I think you have too, of like, I'm scared to sell during these times, or I like, do people want to be sold anything during these times? So what do you think about that? Like, how
Yeah.
can we sell? Do we sell? How do we sell when it's such a challenging time?
Yeah. Well, I think in general, people don't want to be sold to. In
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like when we're watching TV or you try to listen to a song on YouTube. I don't know about you, but usually like you skip the ads, you can just get back to content on TV. You probably wish you could skip the commercials, or the commercials of the time where you're like, I'm going to go replenish my snack, or I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall, um, I don't think that people like to be sold to in the sense that you're trying to give someone something that they don't need. And
Right.
so I also think it's really important that what makes a business or a practice is if you have sales. What separates a business from a hobby is sales. And so I think for myself, you have to at first ask yourself, is the thing that you love to do, do you just want to do it because you love doing it? Or do you feel like you want it to be an income stream? And I think hobbies are amazing. I think hobbies are what make life rich. So it's like I was just using the example of my mom, that she's a gardener, and it's not something she wants to get paid to do, but she loves to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think first it would be to decide, like, is this my hobby and I just want to coach or teach yoga or make things and that smell good for myself and just share it? Like, there's no reason why you have to try to monetize it if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, if it's something that you do want to monetize and it is an income stream and it is something that you want to contribute to your livelihood, I think it's essential that we learn to make peace with sales. And I was one of those people that thought that I didn't like sales and that I wasn't good at it. And then I just think that that's absolutely not true, because I think we have a definition of sales that might feel harmful and pushy. So I think when we think about
Mm-hmm.
sales, we think about someone trying to sell us something that we don't need just for their gain,
Right. Right.
versus selling something to someone that they need. So like if we go to the grocery store, we don't get mad at the grocery store for selling us groceries. Or if you have a membership to the Hivery, you're like, oh my God, I get to connect with all these amazing women. I get to share my services. I get to network. I get to be in connection and not be stuck in my house. So I think it's really important first that we shift our relationship to sales. So if you have one that feels negative, it's going to be hard and challenging to share your services. And I even like to use the word share instead of sell, because
Yes.
it's like the first thing that when they do, when they find something that they really like or are into, they want to share it. So it's like everyone wants to share the Hivery because it's like, oh my God, I love it. You have to come to the Hivery, or whatever it is. If you go see a great movie, you want to tell everyone about it. And similarly to the thing that you're passionate about, it has shaped your life in some way or form, and you want to share it. So bringing it back to your question about this time, I think that if you were already uncomfortable with sales and charging for your services prior to the pandemic, prior to, the global uprising that's happening in our world, I think it's
Yeah.
just magnified now. And I think that it's important to share your work that
Yeah.
people, and when you think about businesses, and I'm going to use the Hivery as an example, that's a brick and mortar business that, and it's virtual too, but
Right.
it's not just Grace, right? That is impacting, like, you've made a difference in the whole community by creating the Hivery. So people who were once in isolation at home, distracted with laundry, kids, food, like me,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like you
And
get
me.
and you get to leave your house and connect with other people. So
Yeah.
think about business as not just you, but it's all these interconnecting relationships. And so I think having a bigger, wider perspective, that it's not just you. So it's like when I serve a client and she learns how to get clients and she's bringing in an additional $1, $3, $5,000 into her household, how is that impacting her home, her home life, and
Right.
do for her kids. So there's a ripple effect that your work has. That being said, I don't think it's business as usual where you could just, you know, be blindly marketing and not acknowledge what's happening in the world. And so I think that's part of what, just like what you're doing now, you know, like you're doing Share the Mic, and you are a business that is committed to social justice. And like I've seen even before all of this, that you have a commitment to elevating the voices of women, and particularly the voices of women of color. So as a
Mhm.
business owner, you can choose to create an impact, and it's not just because I want the money. Like I've never worked with anyone, Grace, I mean that sincerely, that said, hey, I think I want to do this just for the money. It's like there's so many things that you could do just for the money.
Right.
That's my long
No, I'm like nodding wildly because I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Because one of the things that you touched on that I think is really important is that as a business owner or a coach or a consultant or a writer or a creative, like fill in the blank, or even, even if you're working for a company, a corporation, and you're not negotiating or charging what you're worth, whether it's your salary or your retainer or your hourly or however you make money.
yeah,
But one of the things that you touched on that I think is so important is that if you don't do that, you risk the ability to continue giving your gifts and talents to others.
yeah,
So it's almost like we have a responsibility to own our value so that that can be contagious for those around us, and so that we can keep going and keep serving. Because if it does become a hobby and we can't afford to keep doing this, we won't be able to continue spreading the magic in the same way.
no, not
So,
sustainable at all. And you're reminding me, Grace, so the first kind of online program. So I became a coach for the first, well, I did my program in 2007, but it took me years to actually start getting clients and putting myself out there.
mhm,
But the first program I did was 3 months. And at the end of that 3 months, it was online. I had just had Naima. So I'd be with Naima, nursing her while I'm doing this
mhm,
program. And at the end of the program, you know, we had our graduation, kind of like we do at the incubator, where you're sharing
mhm,
what you got from this. And I said to her, I was so thankful that she created this program, because if she did not create this program, I would not have seen her ad on Facebook, and I would not have responded, and I wouldn't have known what next to do in my business. And that switched a light for me, because I said, oh my God, my clients are going to feel that way about me. That
right.
I feel really grateful that I put something together that could serve them. And she wasn't thinking about Khadijah specifically when she created that, but I was so grateful that she was visible and that I could see her, and that she had a solution to what I was seeking the answer for.
Mm, that is such a great reminder. Sometimes we have to like get out of our own way and see it from that perspective. Um, but you use the word visible, which I love. Let's talk about being visible, because I think there's all kinds of ways that we can subconsciously hide, right? And then there's all kinds of ways we can put ourselves out there in a way that feels true. And like you said, like it doesn't have to feel salesy. It can feel like us. But can we talk a little bit about being visible and stepping into your own visibility?
Yes, well, I would say that visibility was really, really hard for me. I was just sharing yesterday that when I first came on Facebook, I had an alias name, Grace. I was kind of paranoid. Like, how
Yeah.
that conversation of like, well, you don't know who's on the internet.
Right. 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 It's still true, but we've gotten more comfortable, right?
About Craigslist, although I love Craigslist, you're just like, you just have this feeling, or there used to be this conversation that there were like weird people on the internet. So I remember being one of those people who was afraid of the internet. I just want to say hi to everyone who's on
I
here.
do too. I love it. I'm seeing all these names and
If-
faces and waves.
I know, right? And if you can relate to anything I'm sharing, I want to see a one in the comments.
That's good. That's good. I love that. I
I
love
had an
that.
shame because I just was a little bit nervous, but I reached a point where I had this job and they were like, Khadijah, you kind of need to have your real name on Facebook. And so I put my real name up there. And so I'm only saying that to say, because sometimes I talk with people who are really reluctant. I see Amber giving lots of ones.
One. Exactly. And Jenny too.
Jenny, hi. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Liz. Hi, Tiro. I hope I'm saying your name wrong, right? So anyway, I say that to say, because I talk to a lot of people who are reluctant to be on social media, or if they feel a little fearful, or maybe their profiles are private on Instagram or Facebook. So I'm just saying that because that was me. So I had the alias name. I was in a program. So I was like, they have a Facebook group. And so we have that sometimes where people are like, they're not on Facebook, but it's kind of the best way to connect with people. And so it was really challenging to put myself out there. I think the first time I did a video was with my husband, and he was amazing in helping me in that way. He was like, why don't we do a video? And it was just, I was sharing yesterday how when I would hear my voice, Grace, I would just be like, oh my God. It was really hard. And just like we were talking about earlier about the practice, the more that I did it and people responded, I continued to do it. And so I think a lot of people struggle with visibility, like they're scared of what their people. Hi, honey, that's him.
I saw there's hubby chiming in. Yes, Mike, you were amazing.
Thing for getting her on. So it was really challenging for me to be visible, and I worried about what other people thought. And I feel like I got to a point of just not feeling very satisfied, that I was like, wow, I feel really talented. I'm a coach. I know that I have something to give, yet I felt like I was blocked because I was afraid to put myself out there. And then it became like, it was more painful to not try than it was to stay in hiding. And I did things, I started leading a regular women's group. And so initially I was afraid to be visible because I didn't make offers, Grace. And so I didn't tell them, like, this is how you could take the next step with me. And so that was okay. That's where I was. I eventually forayed into doing videos. I did that more, but I know that visibility is a huge thing for people because sometimes they think, well, who am I? Can I really help my clients with the results I said? What if they're not happy? And then I feel like a lot of comparisonitis that happens, like looking at other people. People might just look at the Hivery and be like, oh my God, Grace is gorgeous. And look at all the beautiful branding. And if you're just starting out, it can feel like I can't put myself out there unless I have all the pieces together. And that's absolutely not true. We just all have to start where you are, practice, get better over time. And I just feel like your community, your audience, the people that are supposed to purchase from you, like they want you the way that you are.
Exactly.
Just like you. They don't want you to be Grace or Khadijah or anybody else. They want your special elixir and sauce. And so I think that there's always an edge for me to be exploring, to be more visible. And so you probably have something in your mind that you've been telling yourself, I should try this. I should put out a blog. I've been thinking about doing a podcast, or I want to start a group. And you can start small with just a few friends, So when I first started my women's circles, Grace, most of the people that attended were friends, and then they started friends. And so start in a place where it feels safe for you to be visible. And so like I was saying with my husband, I did a video with him. So it's like you could do your own video if you're new to video and just share it with a friend and see what they think, or share it with a small group. So start.
Yes. When I started the Hivery, I started it as I offered a lunch. I just had this idea that I thought I can't be the only person that wants to gather and talk about next chapters and transitions and life, trying to kind of navigate a career and all these life chapters. So I donated to my kids' elementary school auction. I donated a women's lunch to talk about how women can inspire women. And I had 12 places.
Wow.
And that's how the Hivery was born.
Wow.
I mean, there's other factors that came into play, but that was the very first thing I did, and I was so nervous. What if nobody signs up for my lunch? You know, I mean, just like these small ways that we put our toes in the water, and then incredible things can blossom from there. That it just by taking the small steps.
I love that. I just want to say that I'm seeing the comments. Beautiful. Thank you, Salon.
Oh,
You, Lynn.
Salon V. I love Salon V and Zen Rafael. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you're all here
I
and
know.
getting to hear Khadijah's beautiful wisdom too. So Khadijah, we've talked. One of the things I think is interesting about your work is you talk about it in the frame of client creation,
Mhm.
but as I was alluding to earlier, like the principles that you're talking about in terms of practicing and being visible and taking small steps, those work. Oh, look, they love you. They say Khadijah's amazing. um, so those practices work for anyone and everyone that is
Absolutely.
offering their wisdom, magic, talent, right? Is
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. So like I said, I became a business coach because, I was leading my group. And first of all, I love that you started the Hivery with a lunch. And I just think that people need to hear that, because it's like you go to the Hivery and it's gorgeous. It's amazing. And you're like, how did she do that? And she's telling you she started with 12 people. So it's like I think
Mhm.
we all have a circle of influence. So whether that's your children's school, your church community, where you work out, where you do spiritual practice, like there are already people in your world who already know, like, and trust you, that you can begin to share your work with. And
Wow.
you that even though like I help my clients get clients and like form their offer and all of that, I call it the client creation queen for a few reasons. So one is that, and I know creativity is a core value of yours, is that I
Mhm.
believe that we create what we want. So it's like we create money, we create
Mhm.
experiences, um, power and influence. You must be super proud of the progress.
Mm.
Thank you,
I
Lynn.
love that. I
Um,
love all these kind words coming through. I love it. Needing to let go of fear and let the light guide you. Yes, Salam beat. I love it. Love
and
it.
be afraid, like part of my philosophy is do it afraid. And that'll get you over the hump, because sometimes people are waiting to not feel afraid to take action. And
Mhm.
I will say that I was someone, I've always loved to speak, but it created, at the time, I used to call it like anxiety and fear. Like, oh my God, I have to speak. And then I would
Mhm.
love it and then like have aftershock. And so now I just feel my relationship to it is different. It's excitement. And that doesn't
Mhm.
mean I never get nervous, but I feel like the relationship I have to it is different. And so I want to ask you about that in a minute, just because you being a dancer, like your relationship to nerves and all of that. But I want to ask
Mhm.
a question about, yes, I think that what we do is similar. It's not just for people who want to get clients. But I think that that's a lot of the people that come to me. And so I believe that we create clients by being visible, by putting ourselves out there, by creating something for them to purchase. And it didn't exist, which is one of the creative things about business, right? It's like
Right.
it didn't exist until you created an offer for it, and now someone has a way to pay you. And I'm a fan of the word queen, because I think it's also about stepping inside of our voice and stepping inside of our leadership, and that looks different for each of us. So like the way that I express my queen might be completely different than the way that you express your queen. And I think it's really about willing to own, which is, I think, the whole journey. And I know you talk about this a lot, is just owning what it is, your special sauce, your contribution, and
Mhm.
being willing to say that this has value, and that
Yes.
it's okay for me to charge for it, and that people are excited to pay. And so it's so funny because my friend Jennifer is on the line, and she has this her company is called Intrinsic Formula.
Mm.
And
Cool.
so
What's that? What's that?
and it is cedar, peppermint, rosemary, eucalyptus, and love. So I'm just going to shake it and spray right now. But
I
why
love it.
I'm bringing it up is that like, this is called creating, you know? So like she created this product and now it's for sale. And so what is it that you have inside of you that, so, you know, for some of you it's a product, but I was talking to someone the other day who has written books, and I was like, that is something that people want to learn. There are a lot of people who have books inside of them that
Yes.
are stuck, and you have the ability to help them get unstuck. And so what's so easy for you as writing a book is rocket science for a lot of us that want to write books. And so I do think that the same process applies to you if you aren't a service-based entrepreneur, but we all, I think, are on our journey of finding our voice and stepping inside of our leadership in our own unique ways.
I think so too. And it's funny that you talked about that you honed in on the word queen, because ever since I've met you and you told me about your program, the word queen always rang so true, both because you are so regal, like you have this way about you that's so beautiful and regal and accessible and warm, and just so you stand in your own version of the word queen so beautifully. But and I shouldn't say it's not but and you are so loving in the way that you help others step into theirs, like really step into the best version of themselves, and and I think you do that in a way that's both warm and loving, and also really committed and firm in your belief.
Mm.
As just as someone who gets to witness you coaching a lot, I just wanted to point that out, that I feel like um, you really embody the word queen and bring it out of the people that you coach and mentor and teach. So I'm glad you brought up the word, because every time I hear the word, I'm like, that's Khadijah. That's Khadijah's word.
Well, I so
So
appreciate that, Grace. And I want you to know, and people listening, that part of what helped me do that was being in women's community. And they kept
mhm,
saying that to me. And
mhm.
and I think that's part of the richness. And I think I want to talk a little bit about women's community. Like, part of the thing that attracts
Yeah.
the Hivery is that I feel like a lot of my experience has been in women-centered environments. And I think a lot of people that come to me also want to hold women's circles or lead,
Mhm.
and sometimes don't really get the value of just bringing women together. Like, that's like so much healing, not even just healing. Healing happens, networking happens,
Mhm.
support happens, mirroring back who you truly are happens. And it's just like, it's a valuable thing. And that's not saying that you have to charge if it's not in your heart to charge, but if it is, it's a worthy service to charge for. And I
Absolutely.
have offered my groups free and paid, but I think I wanted to say that being in women's community like helped me own that word. Whereas I think there was a part of me that felt shy about it. And then it's like getting that mirroring back, um,
Yeah.
really said, own it.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting how it, like anything else, like we were just talking, like the more you practice, the more you were able to step into it and own it and
Yeah.
allow it to be you and be of you and be from you, and like just to, and to really envelop everything that you believe in. But you practice and you committed. It's you had to get there too.
Yes, for sure.
So you're an example of that process. And I love one of the things I love, so for those of you watching, Khadijah and I have a weekly one-on-one. And it's such reciprocal learning. Like we're of course we're talking about what we can do to make the incubator wonderful, what we can do to make our Hivery Circle membership wonderful, other, new virtual programming that we can offer. But I also think that we're like learning and coaching and teaching and mentoring each other along the way.
Sure.
And Khadijah will remember this when we first had to close the doors of the Hivery due to the shelter in place in March. I was so nervous to be online.
Mm.
That's so funny. I mean, like here we are. Like I've done hundreds, or I don't know how many. I'm like, public speaking is my thing. I grew up as a dancer, like being in front of people, no big deal. But there was something about being online that was a little like nerves in my belly.
Yeah.
And you really encouraged me to go for it and got me doing these Instagram lives, got me doing like so I just it's interesting to talk about you as a coach and coaching others, where I feel like I'm just as much a recipient of that, even in our work together. So I really appreciate that.
I received that. And thank you so much, Grace. And I love that you shared that, because I think it could be easy to look at you and be like, Grace was a dancer and she owns the Hivery. Like, she's got it all in the bag. And that, like, you demonstrating that we all have places that we need to lean in more and get to stretch and strengthen our courage muscles. So,
And we all get nervous.
mm-hmm.
We're all like pushing the edges, right? And we all have a tendency, we're all working or on that inner perfectionism, like trying to release that and just let that be and move forward. Anyways, I love what you said about, be afraid and do it anyway.
Absolutely.
But
And said, can I see it? Okay, Harry said, live is a different vulnerability. I'm so glad you're both sharing with us. Thank you. You're welcome, Lynn. Just want to see if there's anything. Yes, it is. There's something about, pushing publish where you feel like, oh, I'm on, and you don't have that same thing in person. And I've been talking to a lot of people who, they've had to pivot because of all this. And like, maybe they were wanting to do it, and then because of sheltering in place, it's like, whew, that's my only option. And get to exercise.
I love that. I love it. And thank you, Amber, for saying that my vulnerability is safe. That makes me feel really good. And I think we have to think about it in situations like doing things like this. It puts us out there, but it puts us out there with like to do an IG live with you is like, I am sitting in my living room, but it's like sitting in my living room with you, having a cup of tea. And, it just, I think when we put ourselves out there surrounded by people that we know are loving and kind and cheering us on and believe in our potential, that changes everything.
It does. And I'll say that when I did my first groups in person, I always had a friend there. So like, I think the things that people feel nervous about is like, are enough people going to show? Or what if no one likes or comments? And it's just like, have your back girl there.
Yes.
And be like, can you come support me? And so at least, you're like, if no one else shows up, she'll be there. And, as long as that person's there, I'll be good. So it's also too a way to receive is learning to ask for help, like asking people to show up, which is vulnerable,
Yes, totally. I remember that so clearly when we opened the Hivery Fort Mason. We did this big launch celebration, and I had it in my head that no one would come. I really thought no one would come.
I'll see you.
Yes, but it's still sometimes when your mind is going there, you're right. You need to know that you've got a couple besties in the crowd that say like, look at me and smile if I get nervous.
Well,
oh my gosh.
With you and Tara, when during that weekend, and you guys it was a really fun conversation, and she was saying she's always thinking like, well, how does Grace, how come my events aren't like Grace? How come I can't fill a room? And I can't remember what you said about her, but I loved that, here you both are like amazing thought leaders and looking to each other for the unique mojo that you guys have. Super fun.
It was, this is Tara Moore. For those of you that are watching, Tara Moore, who wrote the book Playing Big, and she's a great friend of mine in front of the Hivery. She asked me during our live fireside chat, she said, okay, what's your inner critic saying right now? We voiced our inner critic right there. And I told that story of like that my inner critic had said that no one would come that morning, and then we're looking out at it. But it reminded me too, and I've had a number of guests at the Hivery that I really look up to that I just think are so just A+ on their game. And almost every single one of them tells me right before we start that they're nervous.
Yeah.
It's just that's and we all have it. We're all working through it. And I think if we can remember that and help each other not to get stuck in it.
Yes.
To, like you said, to do it afraid.
Yeah.
I think that's the kindest, most wonderful, impactful gifts that we can give to each other.
True. Did you feel that way as a dancer?
I did. I was almost always, I would say 95% of the times I went on stage, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Almost every time. The only thing is you get used to being nervous. You don't get not nervous. You just get used to being nervous. So it doesn't feel like I remember there were certain things that in the beginning of my work as a dancer, or things that that were really stretching me, where I would literally feel like I was about to throw up. Like I was like super nervous.
Yeah.
But what happens is that it's not that the nerves go away, you just get more used to them being there,
Yeah.
right? And you're able to do it anyway. And I
'Cause-
actually think that the nerves are fuel,
mhm,
right? They
mhm.
give you that that energy.
Yeah. I've also heard too, like with public speaking, that part of the energy that you're feeling, that you kind of need to be able to tune up to like expand your energy out to hold everyone that's there. Because when you're just having a conversation, it's this, but there's a lot more energy that's required of you when you're in a group. So part of it is that you need that adrenaline to be able to
Yes,
project out. So that was really helpful. And I love what
absolutely.
you know, it doesn't necessarily go away, but that your relationship to it changes. And so,
Right. Right. And it becomes a bit more of like the feeling of being really alive.
mm,
That's what it was for me. Is it was this feeling of like I'm not in the middle place of like the kind of dull monotony of
mm,
the day to day. It was this like it would stretch me to this feeling of um like the extreme, like the kind of where you're really lit up inside. So you
yeah.
feel really fully alive, even if you're nervous. It's that feeling of feeling fully alive.
Well, I love that mindset shift. So from now on, when you're like, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm going to throw up, you're like, I'm alive.
I'm alive. I'm totally alive. Yes, yes. So is there anything else that I could talk to you all day? You know that. We have such wonderful conversations. I'm so lucky and grateful every day that you're part of the Hivery team and that you're sharing your wisdom in all the ways that you do. So, is there anything else that you want to share? And I want to make sure that you tell people how to find you. And but before we go to that, is there anything else that you want to share? Any nuggets of wisdom or any other advice or?
Well, I appreciate so much, Grace, and I'm grateful to be a part of the Hivery family. And
Mm,
what wisdom or pearls do I want to leave you with? Just that your products matter, your services matter, your gifts matter. So whether you are a poet, an herbalist, a teacher,
mm,
a musician, an artist, we need that. Like even just during this time, like when I've seen videos of art, like it just like that feeling of being alive and of
mhm,
transformation. And we are all needed and we're all meant to do our work and contribute to this specific moment in history in our own way. And
mhm,
your way is needed too. No way is better or more important than another. And so be visible, share your
mm,
voice. It empowers others to share their voice. And I have a daughter who's 6 years old that, hopefully will be able to keep her voice. Like she's very clear about who she is and what she wants. And
mhm,
I know that um, we want to raise our girls to really believe in what it is that they have to give and share and do it
mhm,
powerfully. So those are my thoughts. You can find me here on Instagram at Khadija Yansani. For
mm,
those of you, if you're a coach or a consultant or a service-based business provider, I have a free masterclass where I share, I think it's 3 secrets to putting yourself out there online and getting clients, even if you feel nervous or shy or have self-doubt, and that you still can put your work out there in the world. So
mhm. I love that. And for those of you that aren't following Khadija already, you definitely want to follow her. She puts out beautiful, wise words and like the nuggets of wisdom that you've gotten on this IG live. She puts out wonderful, kind of profound messages, and I look forward to them. So you'll definitely want to follow Khadija. Khadija, this was so fun. I'm like, I could do this all day. I don't want it to end. I love our conversation. I adore you. I admire you. And I'm so grateful that you put your talents out into the world in this way that we get to learn from you. So thank you so much, Khadija. This is such a treat.
Grace, this was so fun. And thank you for being visible and for your commitment to elevating women's voices and to sharing the mic.
My total pleasure. Thank you so much, Khadijah. Bravo to you. And I look forward to more. We'll do it again. This
Yes.
is fun. Let's do it
Thank
again.
you all for joining.
Yes, thank you all. And thank you for your amazing comments. You're all so just positive and loving. And what a beautiful community. We're really, really lucky.
We
So
are.
yes, someone's saying everyone must follow Khadijah. And she's right. She's right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Khadijah. What a blast. And we'll see you very soon. Mwah. Bye, everybody.